Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another day of finding hope through faith and also reading mythology. We're getting closer and closer. We're getting about halfway done with the book, so that's good. Right now, we're in the story of Hercules. Yesterday, we started talking about Hercules, which he's a little dumb, but stronger than Theseus. And it seems like I don't know. We'll figure out what it's going to be, what he's going to get into. Hope everybody's doing well. Weekend's coming up, so we have good plans. And as we go through, we'll stop and talk about it, of course. But yeah, let's get started. I'm going to go back a little bit from where we were last time and then go forward. All right. It would have been ludicrous to put him in command of a kingdom as Theseus was put. He had more than enough to do to command himself. He could never have thought out any new great idea as the Athenian hero who was held to have done. His thinking was limited to devising a way to kill a monster which was threatening to kill him, like the water. Nevertheless, he had true greatness, not because he had complete courage based upon overwhelming strength, which is merely a matter of course, but because by his sorrow for wrongdoing and his willingness to do anything to expiate it, he showed greatness of soul. If only he had some greatness of mind as well, at least enough to lead him along the ways of reason, he would have been the perfect hero. He was born in Thebes, and for a long time was held to be the son of a distinguished general. Amphitryon? That's not it, right? I'm going to look it up. Amphitryon. I was terribly wrong with that. Cool. A distinguished general. In those earlier years, he was called Alcides, or descendant of Alceus, who was the father, which is who this person's father.
For you, you definitely won.
Amphitryon. Okay. Anyway. But, in reality, he was a son of Zeus, who had visited Amphitryon's wife, Alcmena, in the shape of her husband when the general was away fighting naughty, naughty Zeus. She bore 2 children, Hercules to Zeus and Iphigales to Amphitryon. The difference in the boys' descent was clearly shown in the way each acted in face of great danger when it came to them before they were a year old. Hera, as always, was furiously jealous, and she determined to kill Hercules. One evening, Alcmena gave both of the children their baths and their fill of milk and laid them in their crib, caressing them and saying, "Sleep, my little ones, soul of my soul. Happy be your slumber, and happy your awakening." She rocked the cradle, and in a moment the babies were asleep. But at darkest midnight, when all was silent in the house, 2 great snakes came crawling through the nursery. There was a light in the room as the 2 reared up above the crib, and weaving heads and flickering tongues, the children woke. Iphigales? I'm going to look it up. Iphigales. Keep getting these wrong. Anyway, Iphigales screamed and tried to get out of bed. I bet Hercules didn't. But all Hercules sat up and grasped the deadly creatures by the throat. They turned and twisted and wound their coils around his body, but he held them fast. The mother heard Iphigales' screams calling to her husband, rushed to the nurseries. There sat Hercules laughing, of course he did, in each hand a long limp body. He gave them gleefully to the dad. They were dead. All knew then that the child was destined to great things. The blind prophet of Thebes told the mom, "I swear that many a Greek woman, as she cards the wool at eventide, shall sing of this your son, and you who bore him. He shall be the hero of all mankind." Great care was taken with his education, but teaching him what he did not wish to learn was a dangerous business. He seems not to have liked music, which was a most important part of a Greek boy's training, or else he disliked his music master. He flew into a rage with him and brained him with his lute. Nice. This was the first time he dealt a fatal blow without intending it. He did not mean to kill the poor musician. He just struck out on the impulse of the moment without thinking, hardly aware of his strength. He was sorry, very sorry, but that did not keep him from doing the same thing again and again. The other subjects he was taught, fencing, wrestling, and diving, he took more kindly, and his teachers in these branches all survived. By the time he was 18, he was full grown, and he killed, alone by himself, a great lion which lived in the woods of... I'm not sure. I gotta look it up. Citharon. That's what it is. Citharon. A great lion which lived in the woods of Citharon, the Thespian lion. I wonder, Thespian lion? That's funny. Ever after he wore its skin as a cloak with the head forming a kind of hood over his own head. His next exploit was to fight and conquer the Minyans, who had been exacting a burdensome tribute from the Thebians. The grateful citizens gave him, as a reward, the hand of the princess Megara. He was devoted to her and to their children, and yet this marriage brought up upon the greatest sorrow of his life, as well as trials and dangers such as no one ever went through before or after. When his wife had borne him 3 sons, he went mad. Hera, who never forgot a wrong, sent the madness upon him, of course. He killed his children and his wife, as she tried to protect the youngest. Then his sanity returned. He found himself in the blood-stained hall, the dead bodies of his sons and his wife beside him. He had no idea what happened, how they had been killed. Only a moment since, as it seemed to him, they had all been talking together. As soon as he stood there in utter bewilderment, the terrified people who were watching him from a distance saw that the mad fit was over. And the dad dared to approach him. There was no keeping the truth from Hercules. He had to know how this horror had come to pass, and his dad told him. Hercules heard him out. Then he said, "And I myself am the murderer of my dearest." "Yes," his dad answered, trembling, "but you were out of your mind." Hercules paid no attention to the implied excuse. "Shall I spare my own life then?" he said. "I will avenge upon myself these deaths." But before he could rush out and kill himself, even as he started to do so, his desperate purpose was changed and his life was spared. This miracle, it was nothing less of recalling Hercules from frenzied feeling and violent action to sober reason and sorrowful acceptance, was not wrought by a god descending from the sky. It was a miracle caused by human friendship. His friend Theseus stood before him and stretched out his hands to clasp those blood-stained hands. Thus, according to the common Greek idea, he would himself become defiled and have a part in Hercules' guilt. "Do not start back," he told Hercules. "Do not keep me from sharing all with you. Evil I share with you is not evil to me. And hear me, men of great soul can bear the blows of heaven and not flinch." Hercules said, "Do you know what I've done?" "I know this," Theseus answered. "Your sorrows reach from earth to heaven." "So I will die," said Hercules. "No hero spoke those words," Theseus said. "But what can I do but die?" Hercules cried. "Live? A branded man for all to say, 'Look, there is he who killed his wife and sons. Everywhere my jailers, the sharp scorpions of my tongue.' "Even so, suffer and be strong," Theseus answered. "You shall come to Athens with me, share my home and all things with me, and you will give to me and to the city a great return, the glory of having helped you." A long silence followed. At least Hercules spoke slowly slow, heavy words. So let it be, he said. I will be strong and wait for death. The two went to Athens, but Hercules did not stay there long. Theseus, the thinker, rejected the idea that the man could be guilty of murder when he had not known what he was doing, and those who had helped such a one could be reckoned defiled. The Athenians agreed and welcomed the poor hero, but he himself could not understand such ideas. He could not think the thing out at all. He could only feel. He had killed his family. Therefore he was defiled, and a defiler of others. He deserved all that should turn from him with loathing. At Delphi, whichever, where he went to consult the oracle, the priestess looked at the matter just as he did. He needed to be purified, she told him, and only a terrible penance could do that. She bade him go to his cousin, the king of Mycenae, and submit to whatever he demanded of him. He went willing, ready to do anything that he could to make him clean again. It is plain from the rest of the story that the priestess knew that this person E was like, and he would beyond question purge Hercules thoroughly. E was by no means stupid, but a very ingenious turn of mind. And when the strongest man on earth came to him humbly prepared to be his slave, he devised a series of penances which from the point of view of difficult and danger could not have been approved upon. It must be said, however, that he was helped and urged on by Hera. Hera just hates everybody. She just hates everybody. To the end of Hercules' life, she never forgave him for being Zeus' son. It's not Hercules' fault that he's Zeus' son. She should be mad at Zeus, not Hercules. He was a baby. What is he going to do? He can't control that. There were 12 of them. Oh, wait. The task E gave to him to do were all called the labors of Hercules. There were 12 of them, and each one was all but impossible. The first one was to kill the lion of Nema, a beast no weapons could wound. That difficulty Hercules solved by choking the life out of him. Yeah. Then he heaved the huge carcass upon his back and carried it back. After that, E, a cautious man, would not let him inside the city. He gave him orders from afar. The second labor was to go to Lerna and kill the creature with 9 heads called the Hydra, which lived in a swamp there. This was exceedingly hard to do because one of the heads was immortal and the others almost as bad. Inasmuch as when Hercules chopped off one, 2 grew up instead. However, he was helped by his nephew, who brought him a burning brand with which he seared the neck as he cut the head off so it could not sprout again. That's a good idea. When all had been chopped off and disposed of, the one that was immortal by burying it securely under a great rock. The third labor was to bring back alive a stag with horns of gold, sacred to Artemis, which lived in the forests. He could have killed it easily, but to take it alive was another matter, and he hunted it a whole year before he succeeded. The fourth labor was to capture a great boar, which had its lair upon the mountain. He chased the beast from one place to another until it was exhausted. Then he drove it deep into the snow and trapped it. The fifth labor was to clean the Aegean stables in one single day. There was thousands of cattle, and their stalls had not been cleaned out for years. Hercules diverted the courses of 2 rivers to make them flow through the stables in a great flood that washed out the filth in no time at all. The sixth labor was to drive away the Stypilian birds, which were a plague to the people of the so named because of their enormous numbers. He was helped by Athena to drive them out of their coverts, and as they flew up, he shot them. The seventh labor was to go to Crete and fetch from there the beautiful savage bull that Poseidon had given to Minos. Hercules mastered him, put him in a boat, and brought him to the king, or to the smart man, I should say. The eighth labor was to get the man-eating mares of King Diomedes to Thrace. Hercules slew Diomedes first and then drove off the mares unopposed. He's getting stuff done, man. He's really getting stuff done. The ninth labor was to bring back the girdle of Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons. When the Hercules arrived, she met him kindly and told him she would give him the girdle. But Hera stirred up trouble. Of course she did. She can't leave things be. She made the Amazons think that Hercules was going to carry off their queen, and they charged down on his ship. Hercules, without a thought of how kind the queen had been, without any thought at all, instantly killed her, taking it for granted that she was responsible for the attack. He was able to fight off the others and get away with the girdle. The 10th labor was to bring back the cattle of Graon, who was a monster with 3 bodies living on Eurytha, a western island. On his way there, Hercules reached the land at the end of the Mediterranean, and he set up as a memorial of his journey 2 great rocks, called the Pillars of Hercules, now Gibraltar and Ceuta. They got the oxen and took them to Mycenae. The 11th labor was the most difficult of all so far. It was to bring back the golden apples of Hesperdes, and he did not know where they were to be found. Atlas, who bore the vault of heaven upon his shoulders, was the father of Hesperdes. So Hercules went to him and asked him to get the apples for him. He offered to take upon himself the burden of the sky while Atlas was away. Atlas, seeing a chance to be relieved forever from his heavy task, gladly agreed. He came back with the apples, but he did not give them to Hercules. He told Hercules he could keep on holding up the sky, for Atlas himself would take the apples to the smart man. On this occasion, Hercules had only his wits to trust. He had to give all his strength to supporting that mighty load. He was successful, but because of Atlas's stupidity rather than his own cleverness, he agreed to Atlas's plan, but asked him to take the sky back for just a moment so that Hercules could put a pad on his shoulders to ease the pressure. Atlas did so, and Hercules picked up the apples and went off. Of course he did. The 12th labor was the worst of all. It took him down to the lower world. It was then that he freed Theseus from the chair of forgetfulness. His task was to bring Cerberus, the 3-headed dog, up from Hades. Pluto gave him permission, provided Hercules used no weapons to overcome him. He could use his hands only. Even so, he forced the terrible monster to submit to him. He lifted him up and carried him all the way back to the earth, on to Mycenae. Eurystheus very sensibly did not want to keep him and made Hercules carry him back. This was his last labor. I'm going to stop here. This, to me, it's like John Wick gave him an impossible task, but he completed it anyway. Hercules is a beast. He's going to be the savior of all mankind. I think we're on to something here. Can't wait to see what comes up in the next time. But until then, thank you for coming to see me, and thank you for going on my journey to help find hope through faith. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.